Hello guys, and welcome to another IELTS lesson. During this video lesson, we will see how to write the introduction of writing task 1, the academic task. What we've got here is a typical example of a writing task 1 that you can encounter if you take the academic IELTS test. And as you see, what IELTS gives you is a graph or a diagram or pie chart or a table, and also got the question itself has got two parts. The first part, this part here, introduces you to the task, and the second part asks you to do something. We will cover the second part, the task requirement and how you can fulfill the task requirement during another video, and during this IELTS video lesson the focus will be on how to write the introduction of task 1 academic. To write the introduction you do need two sentences. So in the first sentence basically you need to paraphrase the first sentence what IELTS gives you. You can paraphrase it in different ways as long as you do not copy and paste 3 consecutive words. And 3 consecutive words in IELTS are things like shows, average, carbon dioxide, and so on, or emissions per person in the United Kingdom. So 3 words that come one after the other. During this lesson we will see how to use kind of formula, how to use a universal approach to write the first sentence of the task 1, of the academic IELTS task 1. So this will be the focus of our class, and in the introduction of an IELTS task 1 academic test you also need to write the overview. So basically there are 2 sentences in the introduction. We will see how to write this sentence, and how to write the overview will be the focus of another IELTS lesson. So again, this is the task that we saw. This is what IELTS gives you. And the very first that we need to do, we read the first sentence and we underline the keywords. The keywords here are carbon dioxide emissions, United Kingdom, Sweden, Italy, and Portugal, and the years. After doing that, we can write something like this. So an example, and we'll see how we can write this example and how we can use this example as a model for all task 1s. So the graph illustrates how much carbon dioxide measured in metric tons per person was emitted in 4 different European countries from 1967 to 2007. And the most important thing, we've been careful here. We've been very careful to do 2 things. First of all, not to copy and paste 3 consecutive words from this part, from what IELTS gives us. And the second thing, to give a very clear picture. A good introductory sentence is the one which basically shows everything to the examiner, to the reader. As a reader, I read this sentence and there is no need for me to go back and to have a look at the graph, because everything is perfectly, beautifully explained here. Let's see how this model works together. So we normally start with something like the graph illustrates, or the graph demonstrates, or the graph shows, something like this. After that, how much or how many? Let's read this together. Here we are talking about carbon dioxide, which is gas. What do we need in this case? How much or how many? Is gas countable or uncountable? Obviously gas, we can't count gas. We can't say like 1 gas, 2 gas. It doesn't work like this. That's why gas is uncountable, which means we need, the graph illustrates how much. So the graph illustrates how much. If instead of gas we're talking about, I don't know, about students, obviously students is countable, And instead of how much, we need to say the graph illustrates how many. After that, how much what? What are we talking about here again? We're talking about carbon dioxide. So the graph illustrates how much carbon dioxide. After that, we need to tell the reader what is the unit of measurement. And to do that, we read this part here, this axis. It's okay in IELTS to copy and paste this as it is. So in this case, how much carbon dioxide measured in metric ton per person. So copy and paste measured in what? Look at this part and copy and paste this part. In this case, measured in metric tons per person. So another time, the graph illustrates how much or how many. We are talking about something uncountable here. That's why we write how much. After that, how much what? How much water? How much beer? How much gas in this case? How much carbon dioxide? So it's this part here. How much what? Then measured in what? When you write measured in what, just make sure that you put this sentence in between the brackets. So you see here, we've got 2 commas in between the commas. Sorry. You see here, we've got 2 commas. So measured in what is always in between commas. The next thing we need to do is, so the graph illustrates how much or how many, what, measured in what, and then where and when. Where? Oh, no, before that did what? So how much gas, what happened to the gas? How much gas? Emission is the noun. What is the verb for emission? Emitted. So how much gas was emitted? And that's the next thing. After that, where? If there are 4 different countries like this, you don't necessarily need to write down United Kingdom, Sweden, Italy, and Portugal. You can say in 4 different countries. Like in this case, in 4 different countries. And the very last thing that you need to write is when. Look at this part of the graph, or table, or bar chart, whatever it is, to understand when. Make sure that if IELTS says between 1967 in this case and 2007, you write something like from to. So what we've used here, kind of a universal formula that you can use with every type of tables, graphs, pie charts, and so on. And let us see some other examples when we do use the same formula. So this is the formula. I'll give you a very brief moment to become familiar with that. And after that, let's see how we can use this formula with another graph. And the very first thing that we do, first of all, we try to understand what we're talking about here. So these are people. What did these people do? Exactly, men and women. And what did these people do? They smoked in some land. So let's do it together. The graph illustrates. We are talking about people. How much or how many? Obviously, it is how many because people are countable. So the graph illustrates how many what? People or men and women. So how many men and women, or males and females if you want. It's up to you. After that, we need to write measures in what. Look at this part, measures in what. In this case, we've got measured in hundreds, and pay attention to the use of S. Measured in millions, measured in hundreds, measured in thousands, per 1,000. So in hundreds, per 1,000. And so far we've covered how much, what, measured in what, and what did these people do? We need the verb now. What did these people do? Obviously these people smoked. Where? Where and when? In some land from 1960 to 2000. So another time, the full sentence reads like, the graph illustrates how many men and women, measured in hundreds per 1,000 people, smoke in some length from 1960 to 2000. So it is a very straightforward formula. All what you need to do is you need to have some more practice so that things becomes automatic. You don't think too much. Let us have another example together. Let us complete another example together. The very first thing, become familiar with this part of the graph, with what graph gives you. In this case, we've got hamburgers, fish and chips, and pizzas. Consumption. What is the verb for consumption? Obviously, is consumed. And this is the unit of measurements, and these are the years. So, the graph illustrates. We are talking about pizzas and hamburgers. What is that? How much or how many? Can we count pizzas? Can we say one pizza, two pizzas? Obviously we can. That's why the graph illustrates how many. How many what? So how many hamburgers, fish and chips, and pizzas measured in what? Copy and paste this as it is, and don't forget to use the commas. So measured in hundreds of grams per week per person. What did the pizza, what did the hamburgers do? You need the verb here. From consumption, we go to consumed. Where consumed? Where and when? In the UK, in the United Kingdom, from 1970 to 1990. So as you see, again, it's a straightforward formula which you can memorize and use with every graph, tables, and other visual representation that IELTS gives you. This is how the whole first sentence reads. Another graph that we are having a look at together. Again, first study the graph, see what we're talking about, try to understand what the lines are, what the unit of measurement is, and the years. So the graph illustrates, we're talking about goods. Is that how much or how many? Obviously goods are countable, that's why the graph illustrates how many. How many what? How many goods? Measured in what? Measured in million tons. What did the goods do? The goods were transported. Were transported by 4 different means. Again, we've got pipeline, rail, water, and road. Let the examiner know that there are 4 different lines. This is very, very important. So tell the examiner how many lines are here, and one way to do that is doing this thing here by 4 different means. Where and when? In the UK, from 1974 to 2002. And this is the whole sentence. Another graph. I'll give you some time again to become familiar with the graph, to see the unit of measurements and to see the timeline. And after that, I'll give you a moment to complete this on your own. So try to complete this on your own. I'll give you a very brief moment for that. So visits, which means these are visitors. This will help you to understand how much or how many. What did the visitors do? Obviously they visited, or how many people if you want, because visitors are people. This is the unit of measurements, and these are the years. And tell the examiner that there are two different lines. And this is how the first sentence would look like. So the graph illustrates how many people, these are visitors, are people. Unit of measurement is measured in thousands. Pay attention to the use of S. Thousands needs to be in plural. What did these people do? Visited 2 internet music sites. So mention the fact that there are 2 lines. Where? Obviously it's online. If you say internet, it's online. And when? During a 15-day period. So this was a model to write the first sentence of the introduction. There are other models to write the overview, the second sentence of the introduction. In order to learn how to write the second sentence of the introduction, either subscribe to my channel, Prepare for IELTS with Kris, the IELTS School of Toronto. Either subscribe here or come and attend one of our courses. I teach at the IELTS School of Toronto. At the IELTS School of Toronto, we've got courses for academic, full-time, general IELTS, full-time and part-time. We also have one-on-one distance sessions via internet, and also one-on-one face-to-face sessions. So thank you very much for being here with me during this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, please like it. And if you want to get in touch with me, please use one of the several ways to contact me. That's all from Kris. Good luck in IELTS. Bye.